You wake up every morning believing that you already understand who you are, as if your identity is something fixed, finished, and permanently written in stone. You carry invisible sentences in your mind like they are facts. I am weak. I am not talented. I am not disciplined. I am just an ordinary person. And without questioning them, you repeat them so often that they begin to feel like truth rather than thoughts. But what if the most dangerous thing about your life is not your failure, not your background, and not even your circumstances, but the quiet assumption that you already know your limits? What if the version of you that you believe in is only a narrow reflection shaped by past experiences, emotional wounds, and other people's opinions rather than your actual potential? Bruce Lee challenged this exact illusion, the idea that a human being can be defined once and forever. He understood that most people live inside a mental prison built from labels they never consciously chose. The label of being not smart enough from a childhood comment, the label of being not strong enough from a past defeat, the label of being not worthy enough from rejection, or even the label of being just average from comparison with others. And over time, these labels stop feeling like opinions and start functioning like identity itself. The mind begins to protect these labels as if they are part of survival, even though they are actually limitations. You stop trying not because you are incapable, but because you have accepted a story about incapability. You stop dreaming not because dreams are impossible, but because you have quietly agreed with a version of reality that says they are not for you. Bruce Lee saw this clearly. He believed that the human mind is conditioned to cling to definitions because definitions feel safe, predictable, and controllable. But safety comes at a cost, the death of growth. When you define yourself too early, you unknowingly close doors that were never actually locked. You begin to interpret every challenge through the lens of limitation. If you fail once, you say, I always fail. If you struggle once, you say, I can't do this. If you feel fear once, you say, I am not brave. But none of these statements describe who you are. They only describe what happened in a moment. And yet, the mind merges moment with identity, turning temporary experiences into permanent identity labels. This is the illusion Bruce Lee wanted to break. Because once you believe you are a fixed type of person, you stop responding to life with creativity and start reacting from habit. You stop asking, how can I improve? And start saying, this is just how I am. And that sentence becomes a cage that looks like personality but functions like limitation. The tragedy is that this cage is not built by the world alone. It is reinforced daily by your own repetition of thought. Every time you accept a limiting belief without question, you strengthen the illusion. Every time you avoid a challenge because it doesn't match your self-image, you shrink your world a little more. And slowly, without realizing it, you become smaller than your actual capacity. Bruce Lee's message cuts through this illusion like a blade of clarity. You are not your labels, you are not your past outcomes, and you are not the story you have been repeating. Underneath all of it, there is something fluid, adaptable, and unformed. A potential that cannot be accurately defined because it has not finished expressing itself yet. But to access that potential, you must first question the identity you have accepted as truth. You must ask yourself, who am I without this story? Because the moment you begin to doubt the permanence of your limitations, you create space for transformation. And in that space, something powerful happens. You stop being a fixed identity and start becoming a process, a movement, an evolution. That is where real change begins. Not in becoming someone new, but in realizing you were never as fixed as you believed in the first place. Bruce Lee trained not only his body, but also his mind to escape limitation. He understood something most people never realize. The greatest prison is not made of walls. It is made of thoughts. Day after day, people repeat the same ideas to themselves until those ideas become invisible chains. I'm too late to succeed. I'm not confident. People like me never win. These sentences may sound harmless, but repeated often enough, they become a life sentence. Bruce Lee refused to accept that kind of mental slavery. He believed that human beings are constantly changing, constantly growing, constantly evolving. That is why he rejected rigid systems and fixed ways of thinking. In martial arts, many fighters became trapped inside styles and traditions. They memorized movements but forgot freedom. Bruce Lee saw that weakness immediately. He believed true strength came from adaptability, from the ability to respond, adjust, and grow in every moment. And life works the same way. The moment you define yourself completely, you stop growing. The moment you say, this is just who I am, you close the door to transformation. Too many people build identities around pain. A person fails once, and suddenly they call themselves a failure. Someone gets rejected, and now they believe they are unlovable. Someone struggles financially, and they decide they will always be poor. But Bruce Lee understood that circumstances do not define a human being. A bad chapter is not the whole story. Your current condition is not your final identity. You are not trapped unless you choose to stay trapped. Bruce Lee often spoke about being like water because water never argues with reality. It flows, it adapts, it changes shape without losing its power. Pour water into a cup and it becomes the cup. Pour it into a river and it becomes the river. Yet despite changing form, it remains water. That was his philosophy for life. Flexibility is not weakness. Adaptability is power. Most people break under pressure because they cling too tightly to a fixed image of themselves. They fear change because change threatens the identity they built over years. But growth requires discomfort. Growth demands that you let go of the old version of yourself. Bruce Lee knew that every level of success requires a new mindset. You cannot create a better future while thinking like the person who created your current struggles. That is why self-awareness matters so much. When you observe your thoughts instead of blindly obeying them, you begin to understand something powerful. Thoughts are temporary. Emotions are temporary. Fear is temporary. They come and go like waves. But most people mistake temporary feelings for permanent truth. They feel fear and assume they are weak. They feel doubt and assume they are incapable. Bruce Lee refused to surrender to those illusions. He trained himself to act despite fear, despite discomfort, despite uncertainty. That is the difference between ordinary people and extraordinary people. Ordinary people wait to feel ready. Extraordinary people move forward while still afraid. Bruce Lee understood that confidence is not something you are born with. Confidence is created through action. Every challenge you face becomes evidence that you are stronger than you thought. Every obstacle becomes proof that you can adapt. Every painful experience becomes fuel for transformation. But this only happens if you stop identifying with limitation. Stop saying, "I've always been this way." Stop worshiping your past mistakes. Stop carrying old labels like they are permanent tattoos on your soul. Human beings are designed to evolve. Your mind can grow stronger, your habits can change, your future can look completely different from your past. Bruce Lee believed life is a process of constant self-discovery and self-creation. You are not meant to stay frozen in one version of yourself forever. The person you were 5 years ago is not the person you are today, and the person you are today does not have to be the person you become tomorrow. The real tragedy is not failure. The real tragedy is refusing to grow because you are too attached to an outdated identity. Bruce Lee's message was simple but powerful. Free yourself from the illusion of limitation. Stop asking who you are and start asking who you are willing to become. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that every limitation you carried for years was never truly yours. The fear, the doubt, the insecurity, the belief that you were less than, all of it was built slowly by experiences, opinions, failures, and moments when life convinced you to shrink yourself. Since childhood, people have been telling you who you are supposed to be. Some called you weak. Some said you were too quiet, too emotional, too slow, too different, or not talented enough. And after hearing these things again and again, you slowly accepted them as truth. You built an identity around pain, rejection, and fear without even noticing it. But Bruce Lee believes something powerful. The human mind is not meant to live inside a prison of labels. The moment you attach yourself completely to one fixed identity, growth begins to die. Because if you believe you are permanently broken, you will never attempt to heal. If you believe you are naturally weak, you will never discover your strength. If you believe your past defines your future, then you will unconsciously repeat the same life again and again. That is why Bruce Lee constantly pushed himself beyond mental boundaries. He understood that transformation begins when a person stops protecting their old identity. Most people spend their entire lives defending the very limitations that are destroying them. They say, "This is just how I am," as if growth is impossible. But look carefully at nature itself. Nothing stays the same. Rivers move, seasons change, trees grow through storms, even mountains are reshaped by time. Life itself is built on transformation. So why should you remain the same person forever? Deep inside you is a version of yourself that has not yet been discovered. Stronger, calmer, wiser, more fearless, more disciplined, and more alive than the person you are today. But that version cannot appear while you continue worshiping your old excuses. Bruce Lee became unforgettable because he refused to stay trapped in one version of himself. Every day he trained his mind to adapt, evolve, and move beyond fear. He understood that true power is not found in pretending to be perfect. True power is found in constant growth. The strongest people are not those who never struggle. The strongest people are those who continue transforming despite struggle. Think about your own life for a moment. How many dreams have you abandoned because you believed you were not capable? How many opportunities did you avoid because fear convinced you to stay small? How many times did you betray your own potential simply because failure scared you more than regret? Bruce Lee's message cuts through all of this like a blade. You are not locked into your current self. You are not chained to your past mistakes. You are not the voice in your head telling you to quit. Those are temporary shadows, not permanent truths. The real you is created through action, discipline, and courage repeated daily. Every decision you make either strengthens the old version of you or builds the new one. Every time you face discomfort instead of running from it, you grow. Every time you continue after failure, you grow. Every time you silence excuses and choose action, you grow. That is how transformation happens. Not in one giant moment, but in small acts of courage repeated consistently. Bruce Lee once said to be like water because water adapts to every situation without losing its essence. Water can be calm, but it can also break through stone, and you must learn to become the same way. Flexible in hardship, calm under pressure, relentless in purpose. Stop asking whether you are good enough. Stop asking whether you deserve success. Stop asking whether people believe in you. The better question is this: are you willing to become more than you were yesterday? Because greatness does not belong to people who were born special. Greatness belongs to people who refuse to remain limited. The world changes the moment you stop identifying with weakness and start identifying with growth. So let go of the old story. Let go of the version of yourself built from fear. You are not who you think you are. You are who you decide to become starting today.